responsible for that part. For like
No, I mean,
you know. Yes.
I was thinking about this whole pandemic thing and how it goes back to, say, with Loyal, like how many like things can happen to sort of test us. I feel like it goes back to broken wrist, which runs into the time when the baby was born, which runs into the time when you had the couple of like grody surgery things afterwards, which then bleeds into the time when we pick up the whole factory and move it to downsize because we're sick of paying rising rents on a space that was not being maintained. But I have to say, now that this all struck, I'm really happy that we moved and downsized to something that I could maintain on my own, because of awesome new landlords. They actually gave a rent abatement for April, which was really kind of them.
That is great.
You know, and it's just really, really helpful. They just want us all, you know, to stay in business. The whole building I'm in now is all art studios. So that was really, really, really awesome for that to happen, because then I was actually able to, you know, keep up with it. But then this is happening.
It's like a rare breed.
How many things can happen at once to sort of say like, oh, you had a plan of how fast you were going to do things? Well, let's throw this at you. And this
right? Oh my goodness. And then, you know, actually during this quarantine, I had a few questions from people like, oh, how did you do your Kickstarter? Like, it's amazing. We're thinking about it right now.
I feel like now's the time to start planning a new one if you want to.
Because it took way longer for us
we definitely, I mean, to get to that point, we spent months planning, organizing, you know, shooting content.
I remember I wasn't pregnant, and then I was pregnant, you know? And then I was already had a baby almost, you know, when we really.
Basically that whole process, the whole thing took almost like the same length of, it was like the length of a pregnancy, how long it takes to do a Kickstarter. Yeah, it was about the same timing. It's a lot of work. It was a lot of teaching, you know, like all of our, you can either, if you're going to DIY things, you can do a really professional job if you do research and teach yourself stuff. You know, all of our great videography was my husband learning new skills and teaching him things, and he learned how to do better audio in a video to make sure our audio sounded professional. Like it was all new, but it just kind of shows you with, you know, take some time, you can really DIY it too. You don't have to feel like you have to have, you know, $5,000 to pay a video company to do it for you, you know. Even your iPhone shoots in 4K if you can capture your audio separately and, you know, make it sound quality.
Right.
Yeah. Kickstarter was fun, but that feels like it was ages ago.
Ages ago. I think it actually is ages ago. It's over a year ago. It is
that we would have gotten it started. Yeah.
Yeah.
That just shows you how many things you can really enter things with a plan, and just so many things can come up and go wrong.
Yeah.
That's true too. But then you just take it one day at a time.
One day at a time.
Keep making shoes every day and just fix whatever problems come up, and that's about all you can do.
Do you think you have like an idea of when you might go back into the studio? Like
we're unsure about that. The one thing we did do was we actually, because we left, you know, we already Airbnb a bedroom in our house. So Airbnb sent out a notice saying, hey, we're going to waive all of our fees for anybody renting, renter and Airbnb rentee to traveling doctors and nurses. So we actually rented our apartment out to somebody who was coming from Virginia up to Hoboken to work at Hackensack University Medical Center. So,
so great.
You know, that's a really good thing too.
That's so like a way to help out. The frontline workers.
It's like, what do we need to be doing here? We're just, you know, becoming other spreaders every time we go out to the grocery store or whatever. So that's good, but we're not exactly sure, you know, how that'll end. There is a separate bedroom in our house, I guess, if we needed to go back, one of us or something. But we drove out here with our, you know, rolling zoo, the whole family, three cats. Yeah, in a Volkswagen GTI, we had 3 cats and a greyhound. And drove straight through, basically, so that we didn't have to, you know, stop and get germy contaminated. But they're all loving it here.
It's good. Yeah, there's 5 cats in this house. The last
there's 5 cats in this house now.
Right. Oh my gosh, are they around?
Yeah, they're somewhere.
Oh, I should be like waving to people. I'm like, thank you, and then please comment and ask questions if you have any. But yes, I think it's been 40 days for me. Like the last day that I was in the city was actually the day before I was at your studio, the factory studio.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you guys also just went upstate for the weekend,
for a weekend.
And that's when things were kind of like,
we decided we're just gonna stay. Yeah.
So that was how was that? Was that hard? You didn't have time to pack stuff?
No,
like
I only had like
stuff.
2 underwears, 2 socks, and pajamas every day almost. But Ilya went down. My husband went down state to pick up some things for me, but not enough really. It's okay. It's okay. We can survive.
With capsule wardrobes right now.
Yeah, right. But I do miss the making, really, to be honest.
I think because I had time to prepare, I packed a duffel bag of shoemaking tools. So that was really interesting. Like a couple hours I spent in the studio before I left. I was like, okay, I can't bring everything because I really want to keep working on the loyal stuff. But by the time you add up all of the lasts, all the equipment, not to mention like, hey, my sewing machine, it's industrial size stuff. There's a reason it takes up an entire studio. Shoes just require everything.
Yeah.
Like, what can I even do just to keep practicing and scratch the itch? So I was like, okay, here's a duffel bag. Let's, what are the essential things that I need? So, I mean,
what did you bring?
What did I bring? A heat gun. I brought a heat gun. Being without my sanding machine, I brought the trusty Dremel tool.
A Dremel? Oh, that's something I would love.
The Japanese skyview.
The Japanese knife.
With these guys together, I feel like you can really bottom, shave down bumps and really get bottoms flat and prepare for sewing. Other fun thing about being here is my dad's really good at knife sharpening, so he helped me sharpen these together. I got really lazy about my knife sharpening, so it's like I've actually pulled out my actual clicking knife. Which I haven't used in a while because I got lazy and used scissors. But I also brought, the biggest
the best scissors. Yeah, that's great.
And then lasting nails.
I'm trying to cut stuff with all the box cutters, and I'm like,
They go double faster. Getting back into your knife sharpening is maybe that's the discipline I'll come out of this with, is getting back into being like a proper shoemaker and sharpening my knives instead of
Do you have a good sharpening stone?
My dad has them for the chef knives, so we used it. If you keep the blades sharp, you don't have to start with a really coarse grit. You can kind of go from, he has a block of 1,000 and a block of 6,000. And so if we maintain and get a really good edge on it, that's kind of what you can do.
Keep on going.
Great. So what do you do is sharpen the knives, and then he tests it by like shaving his arm hair off or taking it and going through a piece of newsprint. That's how I know the knife is sharp. Pincers. Pincers. Lasting nails, and basically I had room to bring 2 pairs of lasts in my size, and then I thought, soling, what can I do? Well, one thing I had was I had some Snample sneaker soles that fit a last, so I brought this and the Speedy Stitcher. So I was like, I can make some stickers. I haven't done that in a while. Okay.
wait, when you do the Speedy stitching, call me. I can FaceTime and do a Speedy stitching with you too. I got one Speedy Stitcher.
Yeah, with the not so speedy stitch.
Yeah, and
I had a student once who called it. She's like, "This shouldn't be called the Speedy Stitcher. This should be called the Struggle Stitch." It's like stab it in the shoe. It's so hard, but it's great because it's it's things you can do that you can contain in a backpack. Like, how can you get the work done? And then I packed like a little tote bag of pre-cut. I had the clicker in the space, so some pre-cut midsole material, memory foam, and then because I don't have a sewing machine here, I guess I can play around because some of my materials are great, like raw edge, and maybe do some cool hand stitching. But we also have a regular sewing machine upstairs, so I brought along some of the fabrics that I haven't had the chance to do more with, like some velvets. I'm like, I can sew fabric.
You can totally,
velvet sneakers. Maybe I'll make a pair of velvet.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, and if you have some sort of backing or something, and maybe you don't need to back it.
Maybe not. I brought that too. Yeah. I brought that as well.
I tried stitching with my toy sewing machine, the leathers. It went through 4 layers with some cranking. Yeah, that's I did skive it a little bit, but
was it with like a size 16 needle in it?
Yep. 16 needle, and it did go through. It doesn't have the power to do it on its own, but I cranked it, and
you have to
went.
Force it through.
With your fabric, I think it'll be great.
I think so. Yeah, it's an experiment. It's time to try something different.
Yeah. I'm looking forward.
Sewing machine at the moment, though.
Yeah, but I'm looking forward to seeing something like that you get inspired by, and then maybe it'll transform into something at Loyal.
No Loyal shoes. Yeah. Well, there was another fabric I bought that I was excited to try something out of. I have some sparkly laces that match it, but it's some more of that recycled water bottle canvas. This was from that company. Was it called Thread, I think? The company that was collecting the bottles in Haiti, and there was a website that was selling their fabric by the yard. So I've got a couple, a sample of one color. So that's always been on my to-do list to play around with too. Canvas shoes are actually kind of tricky working with fabrics, but that's why I always liked working with fabrics too. I think that's what made me feel really good about jumping into trying vegan shoes, was that I had already been I'd made those like some crazy linen boots for somebody, all those like client samples starting in like 2016. By the time I'd worked with so many fabrics, I was like, I feel like I've kind of tackled some fabric trickiness. I feel comfortable about trying out some new stuff.
You did align your like vegan lifestyle with your footwear, which is like, for shoemakers, leather is something that they love. So it was amazing to see like that you transitioned to vegan materials.
I feel like I only felt comfortable doing that after, like I said, I'd had a lot of experience working with other challenging materials that made me feel more comfortable kind of trying to tackle vegan stuff. There's some, like I was saying about like the new materials coming out that get better, like say these awesome synthetics, part of what makes this great is they're mimicking leather, and it's like, well, why are we mimicking leather? I mean, it does do some really amazing things that other materials haven't quite captured yet, but they're getting closer. That was what was most exciting about that new reishi mycelium material. They're actually tanning it. So they're actually tanning it to get to the properties of the strength, but plus the stretchiness and like the draper pliability that certain leathers have. I think other companies starting with it, if you're just growing the mycelium stuff, you've got something that's stiffer that maybe you could use for like a midsole or something, but not upper material. So can't wait till we can ever get our hands on that.
And then I think about like the gluing situation too. Like, remember I think we heard from somebody that it didn't really like to stick, so like the surface treatments and stuff. I'm looking forward to experimenting. Like, I want you to experiment it. I guess I might not experiment it with myself
whenever I can get it. I mean, I found that that's the same with leather and with other any synthetic materials. It comes up more with sewing materials, right? It's like the right glue for the right application, and sometimes you just test it out. Like,
we actually had a student that had a really hard time, like even folding it. We had a hard time. We were like, okay, what do? In the end, we taped everything with a double stick tape. None of the
was that a
synthetic
working. Upper material?
Yeah, it was a synthetic and the proper. I think it was more like the PU with like. It was really plasticky. It was really rubbery, plasticky. It wasn't as nice as it was really even hard to sand, to even rough it up,
like to get the surface off. I've noticed that actually with some of these, there's a springiness to the surface. So the sort of part that, even if it really looks like the grain of a leather, if you were to take like sandpaper across leather, it would scratch really well. They're almost more scratch resistant than the grain of a leather. So to sand through it, it's actually kind of impossible to do it by hand too. You have to actually like get in there with the Dremel tool, which is why we love the Dremel tool so much.
Yes.